Well, hey, we'd like to welcome you to the Brian and Jesse show. We have a special guest here with us today, and Lana Vasquez is here with us from Life Impact International. What's up, Lana?
Hello, sir.
It's
Thank you for
good.
having
Well,
me.
it's good to have you here. How you doing today?
Good, good.
All
Getting
right.
ready to fly back to Tulsa.
Going back to Tulsa.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know Lana, Lana has founded Life Impact International. How many years have you been going now, Lana?
24 years.
24 years rescuing kids from the sex slave industry or kids that are at risk to being trafficked, and she's given her life to this. She's been a friend of ours for 17 years now, maybe more, I don't know, 17, 18 years. And it's been an honor to do ministry with you and to be your friend. So what a great day to have you here with us in Amarillo at his church.
Thank you. But you've helped us a whole lot. You haven't just done it with us, you've done it for us many of the times too.
Well, hey, it's been one of the greatest pleasures of our life. Tell us, how'd you get a heart for, like, now a lot of people know about the sex slave trade, those kind of things in America. It wasn't that way whenever you started.
No.
I mean, nobody really knew.
Nobody had heard of it.
Tell them how you got a heart for that and what the process was to get you into that ministry.
Okay, so 24 years ago, it wasn't even a topic. It wasn't even a thing, and I was in Bible school and with some missionaries, and they were in the Philippines, and at one point they were in Thailand, and they had heard of this. Another person came and said that they were walking by on a beach and heard a little 8-year-old girl screaming from a bar, and they ran in, got this girl, and ran off with her in their on their hip. And basically it was a whole long story, and so from that I started looking into it and hearing, and then something happened where on I believe it was like a 2020 kind of broadcast. Some people went into Cambodia and did a raid in Cambodia, and there was a bunch of 8, 7-year-old girls in Cambodia doing boom boom for some equivalent of about $7, $6. And at that point the whole world knew, and it became big at that point. And this is again like 22 years ago, and I knew at that moment when I heard about it. So the seed had already been planted in my heart. I was in this itty bitty Church of God. I was in 150 people. A missionary from Sao Paulo, Brazil came, and I was a new Christian. I had never been on a missions trip, never been to a children's home, so I had never heard anything about these things happening to children. I didn't know anything like this. And I'm sitting in this church service. It was in between my first and second year of Bible school, and I was literally praying, okay, I personally was rescued out of a crazy life, and I knew that I was rescued to rescue. And so, and I knew it had something to do with children, but I didn't know how to connect the dots. I didn't know all the puzzle pieces. And in your typical Bible school, you could be a pastor, an evangelist, a missionary. So I didn't know, or a Sunday school teacher, and I knew I wanted to do something with children, but I knew it was more a mix, a cross between evangelism, missionary, children. So I didn't understand how it all connected. And I was sitting in that service, and I heard this missionary from Sao Paulo, Brazil come, and he talked about the 300,000 street kids in the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. And he said you could see 5-year-olds walking around sniffing glue to kill the hunger pains because glue is cheaper than food, and there's more kids on the streets than there is food in the dumpster. And you'll see 10, 11-year-olds in the streets pregnant because they're just multiplying and getting pregnant and having more street kids, and that they have no value, they have no worth, and actually the store owners pay off the police to line up these children, and they just massacre them, and they dump them in the sewages of Sao Paulo. And you can walk up and down the streets of Sao Paulo and smell the bodies of rotting children in the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I sat back in that pew and I just started to weep. I just started to cry. And it was that old school time where they still had a Sunday school class in between. And the pastor's wife came over to me, and she put the microphone in front of me and said, Lana, what is God doing? What do you want to do for the Lord? Just randomly. And out of my heart, out of my spirit said, I want to work with exploited children internationally. And my aunt looked at me. I'd never been on a missions trip. I didn't even know what that meant. This is the first time I'm hearing anything about children. And my aunt looked at me and she said, you do? And I said, I think that's what I said. That's what came out of my mouth. And so I started praying about, okay, what does this mean? You know, rescue to rescue, exploited children internationally. I've never been on a missions trip. So I just went up to that guy and I said, as soon as I graduate Bible school, I'm going to come work with you. I'm going to help with your street kids home. He had lost like 2 cars because kids would come off the street, hold a gun to his head, and and his cars would get stolen. I said, I'm going to come and run your homes. I'll come and work with you. So that was my goal, was to go to Brazil. And that was the first time I heard about exploited children. And that was used to just really birth that seed in my heart and keep my face put towards that. But when I was back in Oklahoma, that's when I started hearing about a country called Thailand. And I'd never been to Thailand. I'd never even heard of Thailand, actually. And I started hearing another layer of the problem, and that was children being sold for as little as $24. I heard a little girl's virginity going actually for as much as $3,000 in an auction, and that the different belief between maybe a folklore, if you have HIV and you sleep with a kid, it will take away HIV, or they're good luck and they'll bring good luck to the businesses. So I started hearing about how this actually was a thing, and that people were going and exploiting children in Thailand and looking to 8-year-old little girls and boys as well, now that I'm fighting against it, and looking that, okay, the ones that are virgins, the younger the better, and that they'll go for the most cost on the black market there in Thailand. And so when I started hearing these things, all the pieces started coming together. And the missionaries that actually saw it in Thailand said, we're going to start homes in all these countries. We want you to help us. First one's going to be Thailand. Second one's Mexico. Third one was Africa. Fourth one, I can't even remember. Fifth one's Brazil. And I said, I will help you start all these homes. I'll commit 2 months to these homes. I'll help you start these homes. And when we get to Brazil, I'm going to live there, because I'm supposed to work with the street kids of Sao Paulo, Brazil. So that was the plan. I heard of this. I knew in my heart I had to do something. I knew I was rescued personally. I knew that that was part of my story and part of my fight, that just to fight for these children, to have their purity back, to have their childhood back. I knew that that was part of what I wanted to spend my life doing, to just live my life doing. And so I said, okay, two months to all these countries. Well, went to Thailand. We started a home, a prevention home. So now, knowing all the statistics and knowing these things, Thailand at that point was #1 in the world for children that are trafficked, that are forced into prostitution, that are exploited. I didn't know at that time that Brazil was neck and neck with Thailand. The numbers, somebody fudged the numbers in Brazil, and so everybody knew about Thailand, but not everybody knew about Brazil. So I went to Thailand, tried to help start this home, and we had 52 kids. Actually, one of the first girls from my home, she's here in the studio with us right now, and 52 kids prevention home. I only committed 2 months. And then her face, she was the first face when I got to Thailand. She was 14 years old. It was a prevention home. She came up to me and said, I don't have a mom, you don't have a daughter. From this day forth, you're my mom and I'm your daughter. And she's been my daughter ever since. She's traveled with me, been by my side ever since, and I couldn't leave those kids. 2 months turned into 6 months. They contacted me and said, would you consider staying and running these homes? And so I did. I committed to do that. 6 months turned into a year and a half. They called me again and said, hey, the money's run out. We do Bible schools, we do church plants, we don't do children. That's not our specialty. We start these things and we hand them over. I said, you can't do that with children. Like it's attachment disorder. I can't do this. We're the only family they've ever known. I can't do this to these children. And they said, well, we're going to have to close the home and give it to someone. And I started when I was 24, went to Thailand, became mama to 52 kids. I was 25 and a half at that time, and I said, would you pray about giving me the homes? And they said, you understand the responsibility? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And I said, I can't do that to these kids. I can't leave these kids. And so at 25 and a half, I became the owner of an international organization, Children's Homes. I had 3 other single missionary girls with me. Same thing, we all had $500 a month in missionary support. And they said, Lana, if you take these homes, we'll put together our money and we'll support these homes. And so that's what we did. We put together all of our money. It was $2,000 a month, enough to run a girls' home
Big
and a
money.
boys' home.
Big money, Lana.
And that's how much it cost back then. I wish it still did.
Yeah.
And 54 kids. And that's what we did, and that's how we started.
Wow. I remember Jesse and I met you 17, 18 years ago, and we had a mutual missionary friend, Pastor Rand and Nikki Montgomery, and they told us about you. And I remember how my mind was blown. They started telling me what a kid would be sold for. I didn't know anything about the exploitation of children. Back then, I'd heard a little bit, but I just didn't know. And we went on the first trip with you. I remember we heard about you. And, life moves on, whatever. 6 months later or so, I'm in the bathroom getting ready, and God spoke to me. He said, do you remember that girl that Rand and Nikki told you about? And I said, yeah, Lord. And he said it just like this. He said, go help that girl. And so I walked out. after I got ready out of the bathroom, Jesse and I were going somewhere, right? I went and got in the car, and she sat down by me, and she said, Brian, the Lord just spoke to me. And I knew what he said to her. I knew it by the Spirit of God. I said, did he tell you to go help that girl? The girl that ran to Nikki knew, and she's looking at me all like wide-eyed. You know, she couldn't believe I knew it. She said, how do you know that? I said, because the Lord just said it to me in the bathroom. And so we bought tickets, and we flew over with you, and you took us back then. Like, we land, you know, you fly. Back then, I think my secretary was trying to save me $100 because I'm in my 20s, you know, the church secretary. And so they flew me like around the world. It took me like 48 hours to get to, I want to kill them. It's like, don't ever save me $100 again, right? It's like a 2-day trip.
Yes.
I could have been there in 24 hours or something. And you took us straight down to the red light district of Bangkok.
Yeah.
And back then, it was no holds barred. You know, it was where all the prostitution happens. But I remember just the mind-bending encounter we had. You're showing us, we're walking down that street. Of course, the prostitutes are coming from everywhere. Back then, it would be male and female. You know, the he, she's, or, you know, the lady boys, whatever they call them. But I remember also the kids, right? There would be kids in the bars. Like, some of them looked 9, 10 years old dancing. And then guys were coming up to me. The pimps or pushers worked for the brothels down there. And they had, back then, I think they had it on a ping pong paddle. Yeah. And it was a list. They were coming up to me saying, what do you want? You want a boy? You want a girl? You want younger? You want a baby? I mean, just asking all sorts of things. Our mind are blown. Yeah. And as kind of a Western guy that's raised around law and order, you wanted to attack. Mm-hmm. You know, but you opened our eyes, mine and Jesse's eyes. Then you took us from there to the safe home you were running at that time. And I remember we wept for I don't know how long we were with you, 12, 13 days, 10, I don't know. We wept the whole time. And I guess we've been friends ever since. But it's been incredible. Seeing what you've done and seeing it going from, back then it was not that many kids. I don't know. At that point, there might have been 30 kids because it was a second home.
Right.
It was a
That
second
was
home.
The
rescue home.
The rescue home.
Right. Probably 20, 30 kids at that
Yes,
time.
Yeah, about 30, 35.
One house, I don't know.
5 bedrooms.
5 bedrooms.
2 bathrooms.
It was mayhem in there. But it was beautiful mayhem.
It was.
And we did a documentary, and that documentary landed. God supernaturally helped you. God likes helping you.
He does.
And I guess the documentary got in the right hands.
It did.
And tell them kind of the story of what happened then.
Okay. I'll say to what you said about when he said, go help that girl. He still says that. You know, many people have said that God spoke to us and said that we need to help you. Those exact words, go help that girl, go help that girl. And it's crazy because it was a promise. I remember telling the Lord, I'm young, I'm single, like I don't know how to do this. I'm in another country, and in a country where women are, you know, the lowest. Well, it's 3 strikes, you're out. You're young, you're single, and you're a woman in this Asian nation where there's not any kind of women like leaders in that.
Sure.
And so, but there was a passage that he gave me out of Isaiah, and he said, because I have loved you, because you are precious and you are loved in my sight, I will give men for your life. And what he spoke to me, and he said, because I said, I don't have somebody to give me wisdom, to give me advice, to give me counsel. And he said, I will give you these people. I will give you these men, and they will be like fathers, like brothers, businessmen and leaders, and they will give you what you need during this time. And so it was actually a fulfillment of a promise that, okay, God, if I do this, you know, he said, I'll give you what you need in that. And so, and that segues into the story of that DVD got into the hands. So we have a mutual, really good friend. He was just on this podcast, actually.
Yeah.
I've known him many years, like a family friend, more like family, and many years from Bible school. We all went to Bible school together, and it was crazy because when I was leaving, they looked at me and said, "Lana, you're gonna get my Asian girl." And so we've been connected for a long time. When I went to back in those days, I mean, you don't come home. They send missionaries. They say with their stuff in a casket because you don't come back every year, every month. You don't come back until you die. You die on the mission field.
Yeah.
So back in those days, it would be like a whole year and a half before you earned credit to come home. Yeah. So I hadn't been home, and I hadn't seen them in 10 years. Like I had come home before that, but they were living somewhere else, and I was, and so it just never timed out. So I hadn't seen them in 10 years, so I didn't know what was going on. And at that time, we were going through the hardest time. We were rescuing babies, and babies were going for about $18 on our border. And at the time when you found us, and we were the only ones that would take babies. And so there was a local clinic, and basically what would happen is we'd get calls for them, and they'd say, you need to come get this baby now. And I'd say, right now I can't feed the kids that I have right now, because we were rescuing so fast. We were rescuing from traffickers. I mean, they were being left and right. It was such a hot time on the border, and children were such a hot commodity on the border. We had to act then. So I didn't have time to go and speak and fundraise. We were doing the work, and we didn't have time to do media. It wasn't even a thing back then when we were doing it,
Yeah.
So we would rescue kids, and especially babies, and our budget would go up instantly, $150, $300 a month, and we didn't have that money as fast as we were rescuing. And so basically we were getting calls, and I'd say, hey, I can't feed the kids I have right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. Can you give the baby somewhere else? Will somebody else take the baby? And they said, Lana, if you don't take this baby, they'll end up in the hand of a trafficker within 24 to 72 hours. There is nowhere else. And so we were taking babies, and I mean, our youngest victim was a 1.5-year-old boy that had been messed with when we took off his diaper. So it was like life and death, and it was a very extreme time at that. And so I just kind of felt the weight of that. And at that same time, this friend, they contacted, and they said, hey, we heard you're going to be in Tulsa with a girl who now runs our children's home, the missionary. She's from Oklahoma, and she was graduating from Bible school. And I knew by the Spirit that she was going to one day run the children's home. So I knew that I needed to get on a plane, go get her before another guy snatched her up and she couldn't come to Thailand and run my homes. So I had the last of my money. I had literally $1,000 in my savings. We had already tapped into our savings. We had a boy that was needing a blood transfusion every week, and the boy, you were there when we rescued him, and so we were using our savings for that. And it was just we had nothing. So I used the last of my savings to get down there, and they said, we heard you're going to be coming to Tulsa for this graduation. Come and stay with us. So I went and stayed with them. And we were there, and I was jet lagged, I was tired, and I was stressed. It was the first time that I felt like I had the whole world on my shoulders. And I'm sitting at the table, and his wife made us a good meal, and we're sitting there. And this friend said, Lana, what's your $1 million God dream? And I remember, I just in my head, I said it with my mouth, I don't remember, it's pretty sad, but I remember thinking, you American, you don't understand the realities I'm seeing with kids. My $1 million God dream, I just need rice. Babies are being sold. If I don't get this baby, I just need diapers and milk, and I just need rice, $1 million. I'm not even thinking like that. Thank God that he grabbed me out of that. And so in that moment, and so he said, so we're sitting down, and I said that, but it was crazy. I thought that in my head, but out of my mouth, I said, I need land to build because my vision's too big. I can't rent it anymore. I need to build the vision that God gave me. And he said, land, huh? And I still don't know what he does or did for a living. And he said, land. And he said, I know a little bit about land. He said, here, let me get a paper. And he got a paper, and he said, what do you need land for? And I said, well, I want to do family-style safe homes. If money's no option, and if I couldn't fail, if nothing's an option, my $1 million God dream, I want to do family-style safe homes. I want to see these kids have a mom that doesn't sell them, have a father that doesn't sexually abuse them, and I want them to be raised in this so they don't repeat the cycle of exploitation, that they see a healthy marriage, that they see a healthy family, that they see that they're raised and they stop it. And that's the only way that we're going to stop it generationally. And I see, this many family style safe homes. And I think at that time, the biggest I can dream was 6 or 7, and so he draws them out on this paper. He lays it all out. And it's crazy. I wish we still had that paper, but because it looks like what it is, and we just built our 18th family-style safe home on the property, and it was 6 or 7 at that time, but the way it's laid out is the exact way that it's laid out now. And he looks and he goes, okay, you need $500,000. And I looked and I was like, $500,000. I just need $1,000 for a year's worth of rice. That's all I need right now, And so I was like, okay. And at that point, I was offended. And I remember walking up the stairs and just grumbling in my head, 500,000, 500,000. I just need rice to feed these kids. Babies are going to get trafficked if I don't get them. 500,000, 500,000. You think so big, And I just remember grumbling in my head. I went to bed that night, and when I went to bed, I literally just told the Lord, it takes a lot lot to break me. I'm a pretty tough little cookie, and it takes a lot. And I just remember laying there and saying, God, I'm doing everything I know to do. You sent me to rescue. You sent me to do this. Like, there's nowhere else for these kids to go. You see, there's no fat to take from, there's nowhere else I just used my savings to come here. You see what we're doing. Like, this doesn't make sense. And I literally said these words, something has to give. And I just broke, and a tear went down my face that night. I laid down and and I told them, I remember saying, hey, I'm jet lagged. I'm a little stressed. I just want to sleep. Just let me sleep in. Don't wake me up tomorrow. I'll make my way to the coffee. Just let me sleep in. They're family friends. So I said, just let me sleep in. So I go to sleep that night, and I say that was the last thing I said to the Lord. Went to bed. I woke up in the morning, his wife shaking the bed. Lana, get up, get up. They got you a meeting with their boss. It's the largest custom home builder in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Get up, get up. They're gonna get you your homes. They're gonna build you your homes. They're gonna get you your land. Get up, get up. And she's just shaking me. And I started to sit up. And when I started to sit up, the Lord spoke to me, and he said, and I did it all while you were sleeping. I don't need you to figure out how you're going to rescue my children, how you're going to fulfill my ministry, how you're going to do my work on the earth. I don't need you to figure out anything, Lana. I did it all while you were sleeping. He said, I just need two things from you. And he said, I just need trust and obedience. Can you do those two things? Can you trust me and can you obey me? And I said, yes, sir. And it's crazy because that scripture that the Lord gave me that I went to Thailand when I was 24 was Psalms 127, verses 3-4. As arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. They will not be ashamed, but they will subdue and conquer the enemy at the gate. Actually, where we're placed is called the gateway to Southeast Asia. And what the Lord had showed me, and I knew when he spoke that scripture that I was going to do homes, and that these kids would no longer be ashamed, and that I would raise up a generation. The Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu nations of the world, there are generations who don't know me. I'll raise up a generation to know him, generations that don't know him. I'll raise up a generation to know him, and that generation will make him known to their own nations. And from that, they will stop the evils in their own nations. They will push back the evil in their own nation through the children. And that was my vision. But it's neat because the passage above that, Psalms 127, verse 1-2, it's vain for you to rise up early, to go to bed late, to eat the bread of anxious toil, for so he gives to his beloved even while they sleep. And he just showed me, like, that's how he's going to always fulfill the vision and the promise and the purpose that he gave me.
So we should go to bed.
Yes.
Like, if I need to get something done, I need to get worn out, torqued. Say, God, something has to change, or go to bed. Now wake up to my miracle. I love it.
Hey, I do too.
Well, I'm going home to take a nap right. As soon as we're done, I'm going home to take a nap.
So then I get up, I get ready for this meeting. It happens to be the largest custom home builder of Tulsa, Oklahoma. His best friend, who owns all the coffee vending machine companies in the largest coffee vending machine company in all the tri-state area from Oklahoma and there. And so then another businessman. And so we're sitting across and we're talking, and they're asking me all these hard questions, and I'm just a young girl that just, wanted to rescue children. So I'm trying to answer their questions as best as I can, and I don't know if it's pleasing them. So at the end, they all just sit back, and one of them said, "Can I give you a ride back to my office?" I said, "Yes, sir." And so we were driving back, and he said, "I've been in the sales business for over 30 years, and I know when somebody's trying to sell me something, and a lot of people try to sell me things." And he said, "But when I watched that DVD, when I watched that documentary," he said, "there was something so genuine and so pure about that. And I saw how those kids love you, and I saw how you love those kids." And he said, "And you can't sell that. That's not fake. You can't mass produce that." And he said, "Come by my office. I have a check for you, and we're going to help you from here on out. We're going to help you long term." And then the other businessman said, "Well, I was in the shower this morning, and the Lord spoke to me and said that Uncle Sam is going to get $100,000 of my money in taxes, and that I'm supposed to give $50,000 away to a children's home for land. and another 50,000 to micro lending. He said, and then I get a call from this friend right here, and he goes, I think that you're the one that the Lord was talking to me about in the shower this morning that needs me to help, and that I'm going to give you the money. So on your way out to the airport, stop by my office and come and pick up that $50,000 check. So one of them, 10,000. I came to Tulsa with nothing, and zero, literally zero,
Yeah.
and left with, at the end of the day, I think it was 65,000. But here's the thing: it was all designated for land. So I remember being in that plane and saying, God, I'm very thankful right now for $65,000, of course, but I still need to feed the kids when I get back. And somehow, miraculously, of course, he fed the kids. But it was designated for land. So those businessmen said, we want to help you beyond this. We don't just want it to be a one-time check. We've been looking for someone to support and get behind, and something to do with children that we could trust and we could get behind. But before we help you further, we want to come and see it with our own eyes. And so they said, why don't you do this? Why don't you find 3 pieces of land and prepare it, and then when we get there, we'll come and look at it. And so we were in that 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. We called it the concrete jungle because there was no grass. Literally, when we'd go to a restaurant with grass, the kids would roll in it and stuff. And I'd be like, you think we need to get them some grass? And so we found 3 places. The last one was owned by the Thai, Chinese, Burmese mafia. And I had literally 3 mafia bosses in my living room. And it was 25 acres. And it was supposed to be a brothel, casino, gambling resort. Every evil work was supposed to happen on that place. And so
Which they built that down the way now.
Yes.
Yes. Not on that
that's
property.
what I think that was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be that.
Go there,
And
yeah.
I think they aimed wrong. They miscalculated where the highway, the new Asian highway was going to be. So I think once they did that, they wanted to get rid of it because they knew that their operation would not work there because it was on the Thai side and not on the Burma side.
It needed to be across
Yes,
on the
and
other
so
border.
they built it on
The
the
lawless
wrong way
border.
of the highway.
Yeah.
And of the border. And so anyways, they're getting ready. They wanted to do a fast sale. And so we found 3 pieces of land, and they came to come visit with their families. And I took them to the first 2, and they said, no, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. Last one, 25 acres. I am from California, Southern California. I am a stucco and concrete girl. I do not know what to do with land and farms or anything like that.
Sure.
And so I was like, this is too big for me. Like, I can't do this. I don't know. I can't run this. I don't know the first thing about this. And so, but they came, and I said, okay, I'll take you to another one. It's too big. It's ridiculously big. You're not going to be, you're not going to want it, but I need to show you. You told me to pick you 3. You don't like those 2, so I have to show you this 3rd one. We get on the 3rd piece of property, and that land developer, he walks on it. He turns around to me. He literally was on it for 5 minutes. He says, I've been doing land for 30 years, and I know land. This is your land. I already put a $10,000 check in the mail. You use that money to survey land, and we're going to help get you this land. You get this land. And miraculously, that's a time we didn't even put out newsletters or anything like that. 4 people came, saw the land, and wrote us a $30,000 check. Never been there before, never seen us, never knew us, heard about us, came, saw the land, and literally purchased the land through 4 people in less than about 3 months from the time that they saw the land. Supernaturally got the land. We since named it the Promised Land because God gave me the promise. Your trees will bear fruit in season. Your rain will come in season. Upon this land you shall have no lack. And he promised me that we would never lack again, that in our first days when we were rescuing kids like that every rescued child that we'd be able to provide for and live off the land, and basically there'd be enough provision and protection, peace, and safety on the Promised Land. And that's what that place is. You step foot on it, and everybody said there is not a more peaceful, joyful place. Everyone says it's heaven on earth. They've never been to a place like that anywhere around the world.
It is a special spot. It's a great place. And now what do we have, 17, 18 safe homes,
18
what'd you say?
family-style safe homes.
And then a worship center for the kids, and there's an orchard there, there's
Yes.
like greenhouses there, there's
Yes.
all this stuff there.
Yes.
And it's top notch. I
Yes.
always tell pastors, because that's who I'm connected with, it's what I do, and always trying to drive them to Life Impact to support. But I've told them this about you for years and about your organization, that I'm looking for a horse I can bet on, that I know every year when I go back, they will have gotten something done. And there are so many people that call themselves missionaries that are on a permanent vacation in a 3rd world country, right? It's like they want to bum around with a backpack and drink odd lattes in foreign
Teach English
countries.
2 times and send a newsletter, a picture of
That-
them teaching English 2 times a week.
That's right. And so people are wasting their money with that. And then a lot of churches spread their missions money out everywhere, where they give everybody $50, and it's like, okay, you bought somebody a hamburger, but you're never going to build anything. You need to find somewhere and focus. And what I love about you is whatever we've been a part of or invested in or friends we connected, we go back and the stuff is done. And there's always ground taken. So I would suggest anybody watching, Christian leaders, church leaders, if you're a pastor out there, you need to be, I think of missions, the right missions philosophy is not a shotgun. You shoot a shotgun, buckshot goes everywhere. You don't want to be a shotgun. I think a church can have the greatest impact getting behind somebody and being a rifle, right? It's one shot. We're gonna hit this one thing. And man, the things I've seen, one of the greatest blessings of mine and Jesse's life is being connected and being a friend of yours and being a small part of Life Impact. I mean, seeing what's been built there has been nothing short of supernatural. And I knew it the first time we were there with you. Now I can't believe it's been 17 years. And come on, like it's been a lot of life. But I remember we were shooting a documentary way back then that these guys saw, that he talked about. It's like you can't fake it. But I remember you were sitting in a hammock, right? We're shooting a shot, you're in a hammock, you're talking about the kids, and the anointing was so thick that day. Like, I still remember it like it was yesterday. The power of God was falling like rain when we were shooting that thing. You could cut it with a knife. And all of us were weeping in the background. And I also remember Lana sitting in this hammock. And the hammock broke while you were sitting there. And like, we're interviewing you, the hammock breaks, you hit the ground, fall out, and it's like, it was crazy.
Kids were laughing.
Kids were laughing. But it was one of the most supernatural, of all the meetings, and I've been in the craziest revival meetings in the world, around the power of God all the time. It was one of the most anointed days I've been a part of in that many years. And I look now and see what God was giving you back then and giving to all of us to be a small part of. It's like he was pouring out his spirit for a generation. And there's a generation of kids you've impacted. I mean, you got them sitting in the room now. I see them when I go back and forth all the time. And Jesse and I are proud of you, proud of the work. And now it's expanded to Brazil as well. So we're in our second nation now. Third nation. Oh, yeah, because you got Burma as well. Thailand, Burma. A lot of people don't understand the conflict. Why are there so many misplaced kids there? Burma's been at civil war since, the 50s, 1950s, 60s, somewhere in there. And so there's all this displaced people. They're looking for refuge. They come into Thailand. They get exploited. Plus, you just got years and years of really slavery in the culture there. 12 or 13 generations, I think, is what I've heard, maybe more. But what people don't know is Lana went from being, just so you know a little bit, those of you that are looking to support somebody or want to be a part of missions like this, went from a few kids in a concrete rent house to now you are the standard for the nation of Thailand. And you guys also have like the empire or whatever. It's a kingdom, right? Kingdom? Kingdom of Thailand is behind you.
Yes.
And you at times have even been given full authority to deal with issues, right? Arrest authority.
Oh, we have it.
Tell them how that came to pass.
Yeah, and kind of what you're talking about right now, to understand, like, we were the first Christian safe home, the first safe home on that border, on the Thai-Burma border. And so 60 women and children were trafficked daily from our border down to the red light district of Bangkok. Bangkok is the largest red light district in the world. It's known as the armpit of the world. And so with children, for children. And so it's one of the sex tourism destinations, #1 for children. And so basically that was feeding it. It was a funnel of 60 women and children daily. So I think it was, like you said, that anointing that was coming for the strong part that we were going to play and all of the evil that was happening right there in Thailand and Burma. And there was nothing and nobody. Literally, that's why we went there. Is I literally heard to go there and to stop it at the root, at the mouth of the river, to stop it from there before it gets fed into the red light district, because it's harder to rescue out of than to prevent it right at the mouth of the river or at the root. And so when we were there, it was such so strategic in that and what was going to happen. So we were rescuing so fast that the Thai government knew what we were doing. It's a kingdom. They knew what we were doing. So the head of social welfare, basically, and these big wigs, they heard of us and they heard what we were doing because we were doing very high-profile rescues with begging children from mafia and from trafficking. So they heard what we were doing. They set up a secret meeting with me, and they said, we just want your top leaders and you there. So basically, they came to our office and they said, they start talking, and they said, hey, we know what you're doing. Right now you have 60 children. We know you have 60 children. You're doing it illegally, but we like what you're doing. Will you do what you do for the kingdom of Thailand? We know these kids are being trafficked. Some big name Christian organizations, if I said them, everybody knows them. When we did our first rescues, 12 children, they said, Lana, we know that children are being trafficked here. And I said, then why don't you do anything? You're so-and-so. You're the biggest one there is. And they said, nobody will do anything. Everybody's scared. They're scared of the mafia. They're scared of, there's just a lot of players and actors in it that they're scared of. And so they said, nobody will do anything. Everybody's scared. And that's when we said, well, we'll do something. So they said, we know what you're doing. Will you do what you're doing for the kingdom of Thailand? And so at that moment, I heard in my spirit, yes. So I said, yes. And then it was just kind of like a play-by-play. And they said, well, what do you want in exchange? And I heard in my spirit again, don't ask for money. And he said, do you want money? And I said, no, sir. And he said, what do you want? And I heard it in my spirit, ask for two things. Ask for citizenship for all of the children that you're rescuing, because majority of our children are Burmese that are being trafficked from Burma to Thailand. That's how human trafficking works. It's always the poorer nation to the
Sure.
wealthier nation. You take away the passport. They can't speak the language. They don't know who to run to help. They can't tell you that they're in trouble. So that's just the MO of trafficking. And so most of our children are Burmese. And so I said, I ask you for citizenship for all of my children so they could be productive members of society, basically so they can have rights and they could fight for themselves, and we could teach them to have a voice and to get into all levels of society to stop this against children. So one, I told them so that they can be productive members of your society. And number two, I want authority the same as police. I heard that in my spirit, the same as police, so that we don't have to bother you and we can help you more. But I knew that it would protect us from the corrupt actors that are within all of this. Trafficking's the largest money-making thing. So you're going to have some big players in that, and we need to be protected in some kind of way. So I said, authority the same as police, and they said, done. And so they gave us, so all of our children now have citizenship, they have an identity, and two, it's a big deal for them to have a card that has a name on it, that they have some kind of identity. It's a win, actually, for them. So all of our children have citizenship. Recently, we worked really hard for it, put one of my first rescue daughters, also put her through school to be a social worker for the government. So she does both. She works with the government and works with us, and she's the liaison for both of us. Basically, they put us on the multidisciplinary task force. There's only 5 seats: chief of police, the head of the hospital, head of social welfare, child protection officer, which is one of my sons, one of my spiritual sons, and then also the social worker, which is my spiritual daughter as well from the First Children's Home. So we have 2 seats and 2 votes in the 5-seat House of the multiple disciplinary task force for children. So by law and decree of the Kingdom of Thailand, every rescued child on our border has to come through Life Impact stores. So that's one. And then we have a voice for the voiceless. Basically, they don't care where these kids end up because they're not their kids. So we get to have a voice to the voiceless, not to put them back in that temple that they were trafficked from, or to put them back with that auntie that just sold them, or put them back with that person that just raped them. So we have a voice for them. We get a say of where they get placed. They have to come through us first. And so, but another huge thing 5 years ago that we fought for, the daughter that's a social worker, she has a special thing called a yellow card. She's the 3rd in the whole Kingdom of Thailand, the whole nation of Thailand. On that card, basically, it says she can step foot in any house and rescue a child at any time. Police in Thailand only have the authority to go into a house until it gets dark. Right when it gets dark, they no longer have authority to step into a house and to rescue a child because of all the corruption. She has authority day and night to go in, kick down a door anytime, our team, to go in and to remove a child from a situation. So we have authority even higher. It's not just the same authority as police. We have authority even higher than police on behalf of the children of Thailand.
Wow. It's amazing, the favor God's given you. Right now, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Let them know, website. Well, if they want to support, and I think they should, you ought to find a way to support, hook up, get behind what Lana's doing. I promise you next year there'll be more fruit than there was last year. Tell them where to find you, Lana.
So we're lifeimpactinternational.org. You can find us. We're on all the social medias, Life Impact International, Life Impact. My name's Lana Vasquez. You can get through mine or you can get through there and find what we're doing in Thailand, Burma, and Brazil.
Hey, well, we love you. Thanks so much for coming today. Why don't you pray for the people for us? Would you do that?
Yeah.
Pray for the people watching. Pray for the
Yes.
blessing of God upon them.
Yes. Father, I thank you for each and every person under the sound of my voice. Father, I pray that we all look up and look out, that we look up to that one that's around us. Maybe they might not set foot in Thailand, in Burma, or Brazil, but there are children all around us that are needing help, that are needing healing. Lord, I thank you that at this time that you just order their steps and ordain their steps to that next person, to that next child that needs help, that needs healing, that needs Jesus, that needs rescuing, that needs saving. Father, I thank you just for the dream that you put in their heart. I pray for faith to arise, that as they've heard these stories, that faith arises in their hearts, that the ingredients of just trust and obedience, Father, that there's not a delay in obedience, and they see what's on the other side of their obedience. They see the faces, they see the places, they see what's on the other side, that you open their eyes to see the faces and the places that are on the other side of their yes and on the other side of their obedience. And Lord, if they're waiting right now just for that last thing or that last piece of the puzzle or just that last connection, that it's right now, that it's no longer, that there's no more time, that there's no more time to delay in obedience. So Father, I thank you for that. I thank you for fulfillment of those things that have been told to them by you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, hey, we love you. Keep your gloves up. Stay out of trouble, all right? Hey, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for joining us today. God bless you.